Hi Internet, British Operative here. What I'm going to show today is how to tap into the battery, because if you're going to be running a separate amplifier, you do need a feed from the battery. You do not want to be taking that from any other feed inside the vehicle, whether that's your lighting circuit, indicators, whatever. You need a feed directly from your battery, because the standard wiring will not be able to handle the ampage that the amplifier needs. So what I'm going to show is how to get a feed into the battery. It's really easy on this vehicle. Ford have made it very simple, which is great. Some of the vehicles I've ever worked on are hideous, but they've made this one really easy. So I'm going to show you how to do that step by step, and in other videos you're going to see is me also upgrading the sound system as well. But first thing off, we're going to start with the battery, so here we go.
To do this well, you really should be using the correct tools, and I'm going to put some links to the tools I have used in this video down below. We have some 8-gauge cable, we have a plastic trim remover tool set, a mini wrench set, and of course the battery terminal. The links are down below.
I'm going to put some light up here to see if you can see it. Up there, you see that black bung on the bulkhead? That goes right through to the engine bay, and that's what we're going to access to put our power cable in, our positive feed for the amplifier. Now when you do this, I wouldn't recommend pulling the bung away and then running the cable and putting it back, because what will happen is that over time, with the vibration of the vehicle, the plastic insulation around your cable will wear away, and then it'll short out against the metal of the bulkhead and could end up sparking. And of course you don't want sparks next to this material, because who knows how flammable this thing is. What you do want to do is make a small hole in the middle of that rubber bung. I've done this on many vehicles. I've never had any water ingress problems, so we're just going to make a small hole in that and then run the cable through. So let's do that. We also want to see where that comes out on the other side. So I'm going to open up the bonnet or the hood. I'll show you where that comes out. So see in there? There's that oval shaped bung. Now on this side, it's part of a bigger piece of rubber that's up against the bulkhead, but you can see the oval shape there. We don't want to make a big hole, we just want to make a small hole, just enough to feed the cable through, so the rubber then sort of seals itself back around the cable as it's coming through. So we're going to make a hole in there, push it through, and then we're going to run that cable up to the battery. Okay, we're back on the cabin side. All you have to do is lift up one corner of this bung and you'll pull it off like that. You can see the daylight from outside. That's how simple this is going to be, because now you've pulled this off, you can put as much pressure as you want to go through the center of this bung. It's fairly thick. It might be a bit of a struggle for the bigger cables, but just put some pressure on it and you'll make it okay. But you can see how simple they have made the access into the engine bay. So you can see what I'm going to do is take the cable. So the cable I need to put through is pretty thick, so the small hole I made isn't going to be enough. I'm going to have to make that a little bigger. So I'm going to make that hole bigger, and then we're going to push this cable through. For this one, the cable is an 8-gauge, it's fairly thick, so I might have to cut a little cross shape into the bung to enable the rubber to part so it can push through. Do it in stages, and if it doesn't go, try a little bit bigger. Okay, we're through. I'm just going to pull this through. So I've got just enough for it to go from the positive terminal, route it neatly around the battery and down to the bulkhead. What I'm doing now is going to feed this cable back in. And there's the bung going in. There you go, that's in. Nice and neat, you can see. Yep, that's in. I'm now going to go back around and pull the cable up from the top. Now, hopefully your cable is sitting up enough where you can grab it. In my case it is. If it isn't, you might have to fanny about a bit, get your hand in that way and around, or even just get some long nose pliers and pull the cable up. Now, if you were going to install a really tiny amplifier, just to drive, say, some front speakers, and you were going to put the amplifier up here or behind the existing radio stack up here, you could just route the cable away. Make sure, very obviously, you keep it away from your pedals. If you're going to route it over that side, make sure you run it up here and zip tie it to some other cables up here. So it's a matter of just finding the best place. Do not leave that cable just hanging around, floating like that, because you don't want to get it in front of the steering column or any of the pedals or anything like that. So you do want it out of the way. Now for me, I'm going to be running this to the back of the truck, because that's where my amplifier is going to go. It's going to go behind the back seat. So I'm going to be running this off to the left, and I'm going to be pulling this trim here, and I'm going to be running it down this in the channel all the way through to the back. If all you wanted to do was see how to run that cable into the engine bay, there you go, I've shown you. Now if you want to see the rest of the stuff, let's carry on watching. Now, depending on the gauge or the thickness of the cable that you're running will depend on what you do next. If you're running big monster cable, you are going to have to pull these trim pieces off, and the way to do that is pull off your rubber seals first, gently. Do not get your screwdriver on this. You do not want to be ripping this. So you want to pull these come off. They're going to be, if it's on a new vehicle, they're going to be tight, but on older vehicles they'll be looser. But you can pull this rubber seal trim piece off, and then you'll be able to unclip these plastic trim panels here. Typically they have square clips that clip down into the frame at about 30-40 centimeter intervals. You'll see several clips as you pull these. You'll always see one on top. This, you can see this has got a piece here sticking up, so this would be the first one you pulled. And you might find under some vehicles, like for here, we've got the hood release latch, so that you have to be careful when you're pulling this. You don't want to be pulling this too high, you don't want to snap that off. But the trick with other plastic trim is just go gentle, go slow, and you'll be able to feel where the pressure points are as to where the clips are. So if you've got one up and you start pulling, you'll get a sense of where the next one is, and that's where you want to put the pressure. Don't try and lever it from one end, because you'll put too much pressure on the clip and you'll probably end up snapping it. So just run your fingers down. Now if you're running, like I say, I'm running 8 gauge cable. Now that means I'm probably not going to have to lift these trim pieces, because I will be able to go underneath, and I'll show you what I mean. Now I'm leaving enough space here for the cable, because I'm going to zip tie this up to these existing cables here, but because this isn't too thick, I'm able to actually just feed it under like this. There's enough space to feed the cable through. Now when you put it through, make sure it has gone through and it's not being trapped. An easy way to do that is just give it a quick pull. If it's moving nice and easy, you know it isn't trapped under the edge of the trim. It's a bit tricky running this when you get to the B pillar here. You are going to have to sort of mince about a bit, but it can be done, especially if you're using the thinner cable. If you're using monster cable, like I said, you are going to have to pull these trim pieces off to get the cable to run that way. But I'm only using 8 gauge, so as I say, I can just push it under with my fingers. When you get to the back seat area, just push the front seat forward. It gives you more space, easier to do. It is literally a matter of just pushing the cable underneath the trim. It's that simple, and it won't move. Once it's up there, it won't move. Okay, so we've got to the point where we've run the cable down the side in the channel, and we're now going to take the cable through to the back. So lift the seat up and then we're going to take this part, this trim piece up here, just get your fingers under there and pull it gently upwards. You'll hear it, all the clips pop, just be gentle. And then we're going to run the cable under here and through this channel out to the back. So I'm going to show you from the other side. We're coming under here and we're going to run it through the back here and into this bulkhead area. Now if you're wondering why I've pulled off this bit, I'm going to show you in another video what the heck I'm doing here, but for now let's get back to this cable. Now when you do this, there is space. This metal part here does not go all the way to the end of this plastic, so there is space between the metal and this plastic here to run the cable. You're not going to pinch the cable under the top, so you don't want to be running the cable across the top. You'll see what I mean when you do it yourself. There's space in here that runs to the side of this metal, so you're not going to pinch the cable, which obviously you don't want to do. So all I'm doing is running it under there. Now, depending on how heavy this is, you may want to get a plastic clip, and I think that's what I'm going to do actually, because I'm just going to get a couple of clips to hold this cable in place. I don't want it hanging down here inside the storage, so let me go and get some of those. Right, we're back at the truck. All I'm going to do is take a couple of these clips and put them here so I can put the cable in and they don't, and the cable's going to be out the way. As if by magic, there's the cable. Right, so now it's just a matter of running this to wherever you want to put it. Now I'm going to be putting a distribution box in here, because I'm going to be running a couple of things. One, I'm going to be running an amplifier, and two, I'm going to be running some other power for some other stuff I want to put here in the truck as well. So that's why I didn't have the cable running over here. If I wanted it going straight to an amp, obviously I'd need more cable, but I'm actually going to put it onto a distribution block first. So that's it really. I've shown it step by step how to do that. You'll see in the next video what I'm going to be doing with the other stuff. Don't connect it up to the battery until you're ready and that has been terminated. You don't want a live wire floating around in the back of your truck. You know, do not connect it up to your battery until you're ready to use it. Right, hopefully you have found this interesting. Please do consider subscribing and liking the video, and hope you'll check out some other stuff. Thanks again.